welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and I'm here with the author, Laura Sims, who wrote a book that has been haunting me since I finished it.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, it was really just one of those books that when I put it down, I was like, oh my God, I really just need some time to process what just happened. So first of all, welcome to
Thank
the
you.
podcast.
Thank you so much
You're
for having
welcome.
me.
Happy to be here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the man?
Sure. I am a three-time novelist now and have this new book, The Man. My last book, How Can I Help You, was about two librarians, very appropriately, and I came on and talked about that with you too. My first novel, Looker, came out in 2019, and before that, I say I was a poet. I think, I'll always be a poet, but even though I'm not writing poetry anymore, really, but I did spend a lot of years writing poetry. I work part-time as a children's librarian in New Jersey and totally love it and love the balance that I have between writing and working as a librarian. Um, and you want me to talk about the man too, right?
Oh,
Give
totally. Let's
okay.
talk about the man. Yeah, because that's what we're here to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book is first of all, I loved the last one we talked about. How Can I Help You was great. This is, I mean, this is also great. They're very different books,
Very
and I love that. Like, I absolutely love that. Yeah, this one really haunted me. Tell us a little bit about where, like, first of all, like in your words, what is it about? And where did the idea for this come from?
Yeah. It is about a woman it's set in the 1960s. She's a New Jersey suburban housewife in a small town, and she's an amateur photographer who's very gifted, but doesn't really know like how talented she is. But she does have this new photography instructor in her life who's encouraging her work when he sees it and really wants her to publish, which she doesn't want to do. But she starts taking these really innovative for the time self-portraits in shop windows and other reflective surfaces. And they're really cool. But when she prints them, she sees the shadowy figure of a man in the background of every single one of the prints. And she starts to think that maybe someone from her past who assaulted her as a teenager has come back for her. And it goes from there and gets, more twisted and darker as it goes, I think.
It
Um,
does, yeah.
yeah. Um, it came from, I'm really a fan of photography and I love the work of Vivian Mayer, who was this, for anyone who doesn't know, she was called the nanny photographer. She was a nanny, working nanny in the 1950s, and she took all these amazing street photographs and self-portraits. The self-portraits are like incredible, but she wasn't discovered until after she died, when a young man found a bunch of her photographs at like an estate sale. And he put them online, and she became this viral sensation posthumously. But her self-portraits are so incredible and like really revealing. But she was this very private person, and I was always fascinated by the contrast between her work, which was so confident and striking and courageous, and then this like kind of small contained life that she lived, and always wondered like why, like what made that happen, that contrast happen. And also the story of her work after her death coming to the public is another piece of it that's really fascinating, which I can't go into for reasons of spoiling the novel. But so, it isn't Vivian Mayer. My character Judith is not Vivian Mayer. There are a lot of differences, but she was a great inspiration for the book.
I think like, there's something about just that time period that can feel it's in some places like the 1960s, it's romanticized as this big time of change and revolution. Um, I think one thing that struck a lot of people, like when they were watching Mad Men, for instance, was that, because Mad Men starts kind of in the mid to earlier 60s, and people who really think of the time period think of the end of the 60s, early 70s.
Mm.
So, you have a lot of this isolation of housewives, and not that that's changed in many ways, right?
True. Yeah.
Like it's not like that just went away or anything,
Mhm.
but the idea of like this revolutionary feminism and like the feminine mystique and all of that, like, and then just counterculture didn't really begin permeating into society the way that we think of it in the 60s until the very end.
Right.
And I really just felt for Judith, this woman who's like haunted in her own body,
Mhm.
like she's been married for a while. Her husband does the provider thing. She's supposed to cook. Her
Mhm.
kid is not a kid anymore. And it's just so lonely. And that in and of itself is haunting.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact that, as you mentioned, she was assaulted as a teenager, and that is clearly not something that she's reckoned with, nor is she able to really think about. And it was a real, the whole novel, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it really was, for lack of a better phrase, I am going to curse and say it was a mind fuck. It really messed with me. I was not prepared to, and this is as much of a spoiler as I'm going to give, read two novels in one, and
Mm.
how those novels worked themselves into the story of the man.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that comment. Yeah, the idea. And it kind of, for me, I started out writing Judith's story and I thought that was going to be it. But I started to realize that was not enough and that there were threads emerging that I wanted to follow. And so then, yeah, it kind of, swerves at a certain point, and I hope it's for the better. I think it's for the better. It makes a more complicated book. And so yeah, I like that comment a lot of the two novels in one. So it kind of feels like that for me. I always think of them as like butterfly wings or something, where there are parallels and they're speaking to each other. They're connected, but they are separate too.
The setting of suburban New Jersey, kind of how did that play into your writing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I live in suburban New Jersey, and I've been to a lot of New Jersey has so many like quaint small towns, and I thought, it's a perfect setting for someone who is experiencing dread and, terror in a lot of ways because it's quiet, especially after dark. Like when I walk home from the train from the city late at night, I'm looking over my shoulder, even though I'm pretty sure I'm safe, but there's room for bad things to happen, or spooky, atmosphere. So that was a big part of it was just like, and I like to honor New Jersey whenever I can.
Judith herself was so enigmatic. You really, I mean, I would like to say what I think, but I don't even know that that is true, other than the fact that, she really was a woman dealing with a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Um, with her, how did all of that unfold? I mean, there were things that she wasn't even telling herself, really. It
Hmm.
was how it
Yeah.
felt.
Right. Yeah. She was very hard to write. I could not get her voice right away. I think when I started writing it, I started writing it in the third person Judith section. And then I was like, no, this has to be first person. So, the next section is in a different perspective. And I thought, oh, I can't do that, right? That's against the rules. But actually, I said, I have to do it. And I think it's okay. But yeah, she is enigmatic. I really enjoyed writing about her as an artist, like writing her sections where she's talking about photography as an art. And I do think in those moments she is kind of plumbing her own depths, like when she takes the self-portraits, even if she can't absorb it, she is exploring like her past and her trauma. Um, yeah, so she was like fascinating for me to write after I got going with her.
When it came to, I mean, there's the man, but
Yeah.
then there's the men around her.
Mhm.
There were other women mentioned, but they were not the prominent side characters.
Mhm.
Um, how about them? Like, how did they kind of come to you?
Well, I knew that I wanted her to have like a stable, kind of normal marriage, right? I liked having the contrast between her husband, Tom, and Paul, her instructor. Like, Tom is somebody who, yeah, she has this long relationship with, but he can't really see her, for who she is completely. And so when she meets Paul, I wanted her to have like this new force in her life that brought something, exciting and maybe dangerous to her world. And so in the character of Paul, I had this man who sees her. I mean, he sees her work. He sees her, I mean, to the end of the book, through to the end of the book as like a great artist and sees his role as like her champion in a lot of ways. So I really enjoyed having those two in the book and kind of, like at loggerheads with each other sometimes. And that was like really satisfying and added some depth.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting. And with like Tom, her husband, like he didn't see her, and like he did love a version of her. It was just so, it was so nuanced. It really was good. And just the creeping, like the building dread, of her experiencing not only that she thinks she sees this man who might have assaulted her in the background of her pictures, but also, like getting phone calls,
Yeah,
and you find out that she suffered
really.
the loss of a beloved pet
Yeah,
very, very
right.
recently. Yes, it just,
Forgot about that.
the snippets you get are just like, again, it's just was like this haunting, isolating book, but I couldn't stop reading
Oh, that's good.
it.
I'm glad.
What are some other just sort of like inspirations or types of either like movies or
Mm.
literature that you enjoy, or maybe something you would pair with this?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always go back to being influenced by Hitchcock's films. And this book, I think, is the most maybe Hitchcockian.
It is very Hitchcockian,
Yeah.
yes.
And especially since it's set in the 60s, I think that even increases that part of it. So always, yeah, Hitchcock, huge influence. Um, and other film. like David Lynch. I love all of the kind of dark, really creative thinking filmmakers of like the last 50 years, all the way up to Bong Joon-ho's like Parasite. I think that is like a masterpiece of a film. Um, and I read very widely. I read a lot of genres. I don't just stick to one. I read a lot of literary fiction. I read thrillers. One of my favorite books of from last year was Pet by Catherine Chidgey. That is a wonderful literary thriller. I feel like there's really nothing better than like a really, really good literary thriller. Like Pet is a great example. The Perfect Nanny by Leila Slimani. Um, and of course, I'm blanking on other names, but Audition, I just read Audition by Katie Kitamura.
I've heard really good things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk about a mind fuck.
Yes. Yes.
That one is, I think, more of that than my book is. I was really like, when I finished, I thought maybe I should reread this right now. I didn't, but I might. So I really love that. I love it.
Well, I think that this definitely falls into literary thriller. And it was so good. I have so many questions that I'm not going to ask because I don't want to spoil this for
I
anybody.
know, I know.
But
It's a
check
hard
out,
one.
yeah, check out The Man by Laura Sims. Are you working on anything else? Are you a little bit of a like, are you fast writer, slow writer?
It depends. The Man took longer than this. I just finished writing a new one. So, and that one came fairly quickly, like 14 months. But I started it like very shortly after finishing The Man because I had an idea and I just started to go for it. So I have finished something new and it's kind of like I all of my books are different, but there's a through line, and this has, the through line of like obsession and um, strange circumstances. This one has to do with UFOs. So, but it's not really sci-fi.
Thank you so much. This was Jessica with Syosset Libraries Turn the Page podcast. My guest was,
Laura Sims.
and we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.